Welcome to a discussion of the most beautiful and profound film ever made. Possibly, maybe. We don't know that, but that's for us to discuss and for you to decide. Welcome to Not Just Any Book Club because we don't have opinions. We share them with each other.
What? Okay. Okay. I don't know if that's how opinions work, but yeah, The Tree of Life, Terrance Mallick.
My favorite Brad Pitt film, technically.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess before we get into it, I'll just start off by saying this. Probably the first thing that I messaged the group chat after having seen this movie was, imagine someone walking into this movie because they saw Brad Pitt was in it, and they, like a person who's like not that into film, and they get this.
This is a film that would probably not be made today, not because of woke, but because of no one's willing to finance this film because
of woke.
because of woke. Well, this film probably made me feel things that I have not experienced in a very long time, so it's woke in that way. This is a big budget film. Probably, maybe, I don't know. It looked pretty big budget to me. That is about domestic issues. That somehow has dinosaurs. It goes back in time and has very long sequences of footage of just volcanoes erupting. There's barely any dialogue. Kind of, maybe it's very abstract. There's a lot of narration. It's very seamless, but also very tangential. There's no really clear overarching plot, and it is awesome. And this is probably the last film of its kind because I don't know any other film like it. Because I think Terrance Mallick, is just a genre within himself. I haven't seen any of his other films, and I've not seen any film like this because I think many people are afraid to really even come close to imitating this.
Well, I think when you say you haven't really seen a film like this, I think it is
Oh,
it would
there's that
it
one
would go
film.
it would be remiss to not
Mhm.
mention 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
At least mention it.
Yeah.
I think it clearly tries to tackle some different things.
Hmm.
Really sharp focus on humanity in this one, and grief, obviously, and faith. Um, the spiritual aspects of humans, right? But I don't know. I think as far as like, will a film like this ever be made again? There's been two, so it's possible.
Yeah.
I think really the only chance is that you get some like if Christopher Nolan like tomorrow was said, I want to make a a 2001, like they would write him a blank check to do it because it's Christopher Nolan. I think that's what it would honestly take these days with how the film industry is currently. Could that change? Maybe, but it's
As
really
of
going to
now,
take like a famous auteur who makes a bunch of money to say, I'm going to do this, and then they'll let him do it.
the really roundabout of saying no, not now.
Yeah, unlikely. I don't see Christopher Nolan doing that anytime soon. And he's the only name I can think of where he would be like, I'm gonna make a movie, and a studio would just write him a blank check to do whatever he wants.
I don't see Tarantino doing this. So
Right. Well, I don't see them writing a as blank of a check for Tarantino as they would for Nolan. Nolan doesn't miss as far as like commercially successful film.
huh.
He's not recently.
Well, um, this film was just a giant swing for the fences. It's very
Yeah.
religious. It touches on themes of faith, so much so that I think that a plot summary would be kind of a fruitless endeavor because it's just images
Yeah.
counting.
Yeah. What I would say, I guess, is there's this, as far as a lot of the imagery that we get, especially in the first and last quarter of the movie. There's kind of an interplay between faith and nature. That there's kind of that we get a lot of images of those kinds of themes. Um, but then the second and third quarter, so kind of the, I guess you could call it the middle half and the outer half. In the middle half, you get um, there's a story about a young boy and his family dealing with the grief of having lost one of his siblings.
Mhm.
Um, and I would say honestly, that's the most plot summary we can give. to
Yeah.
to be
We're
honest,
not afraid of spoiling, but
no.
they're not spoilers in this film. It's very experimental.
Hmm.
As we've said, um, I hate to say, it sounds like pretentious, but it's not really a movie. It's it's just it's using filmmaking to tell a story, which is just a very pretentious way of saying it technically is a film. It's moving images. It has all these. I'm describing a movie essentially, but like it's not commercial. It's
Yeah,
just.
it is. Its goal is to make you think about a couple things: faith, we were touched on, philosophy, nature, but also grief, and some more. There, I think it also, with a movie like this, you're bound to talk about the lofty things it's reaching towards with its like experimental flourishes.
Mhm,
But I think also it's also a very personal story, right? We get that family dynamic. We get the
mhm,
personal grief of the characters in the family, um, and we get some societal stuff even.
mhm.
The
And cosmic
hype,
stuff.
very, yeah, cosmic stuff. Some very like the very masculine and feminine mother and father, for instance, as for
Mhm,
even like a societal um, theme or topic. So there's a from the micro of individual grief all the way to the macro of like nature and the
mhm.
universe and faith. There's a lot in this movie. And I don't know if we're gonna we definitely will not get through all of it in our, you know 45 minute to an hour usually podcast episodes.
Yeah, this film's very abstract. I think one of the biggest the takeaways from this film is like, what is the meaning of life? Which is just a very very broad topic. But what's the meaning behind man's existence? Why are we here? I think that's what Sean Penn's character was there because he was grieving about his brother that passed away a
Mhm.
while back, and
Yeah, even as an adult, it kind of points to, because he's talking on the phone with, I think it's supposed to be his dad in the elevator, and he's like, "Yeah, I think about him all the time." So it's
Mhm,
supposed to be even, these this grief that we carry with us, these people that we carry with us,
yeah,
even decades later into adulthood, he's still
yeah.
thinking about his brother all the time.
I think one very important thing is the epigraph that this movie opens with. I it's from the Book of Job, which is also very similar to another movie we've done, A Serious Man, where it talks about man suffering. Um, the quote goes, "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy." Basically, this is I believe I have not read the Book of Job, so forgive me if I'm wrong. Y'all Christian, you can do that. It's Job lamenting at God for the fact that he feels that God has abandoned him, has tortured him essentially for nothing, even though he's been devoted to him. And I think that is what grief in this case feels like, even as it pervades throughout time. And I think with Sean Penn's character, Jack O'Brien, which the initials of that are JOB, Job. Coincidence? I don't think so. Um, as soon as he starts lamenting over his brother's death, that's when it goes back to time and goes with the dinosaurs, scientifically inaccurate because they don't have feathers, but that was not known when this film was made, and volcano footage and
Yeah.
the birth of humanity and life itself.
What I will immediately say, stop typing that comment. He did get it wrong immediately.
Oh
Job in
damn.
the book does not abandon or blame God for his circumstance, even as God strips everything away from him. Um, and
Totally didn't
so
read it.
and so the I think we're supposed to if you have read it, you get that idea of Job, and it's like, can any of us be that strong in our faith? Can any single one of us? And Jack's mother certainly seems to be some, at least close to it, right? She is very strong in faith. Um, but we get to see Jack's struggle kind of as he grows up. To He's wondering why, like, why did my brother have to die? What how is that fair? Why did you have to take him away from us? Um, isn't there a scene where he's like praying in his room? I remember it's I should have probably watched it a little bit closer to the
Yeah.
episode.
No, I
But
mean,
there was a scene of him praying in his room, I believe, that was really striking to me in the moment. Um, you could just tell the frustration he has as he,
mhm.
especially with such a great model of grace and faith in his mother. Um, you know, the fact that Jack is so imperfect when compared to her, you can kind of get a sense of his frustration there.
Mhm. I like. I think the the family, the O'Brien family, is like laconic. They are supposed to represent humanity as a whole. Um, and I think even you can even lean into that and say that they kind of represent aspects of mankind. I think the mom represents loving and caring, that aspect of God, while Brad Pitt represents the cruelty that God shows, but it's always out of love. I think that could be it as well. Um, Even though they really hate that. They get into beef about Brad Pitt's character, who does not have a
Yeah.
name. So
Well, yeah, it's Mr. and Mrs. O'Brien.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think you kind of hit it. Jessica Chastain's character, the mom, she's like compassion, and love, and the father is kind of tough love, almost, ambition and struggle. Um, Another moment that was really striking to me is there's a moment where he's walking with Jack, and he says, I think it's in a montage. He says, don't be like me. Don't do the things that I had to do. It's not worth it. In some cases, um, you might end up regretting it. And then you see just a second later, Jack sees how his father is walking along with his hands in his pockets, and he kind of takes up the same stance,
Hmm.
kind of walking along behind him. Um, and I think again, Jack is almost, I think, supposed to be a surrogate for any one person.
This entire film's an allegory.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know. I guess what I would kind of take from that and the influence that both of his parents have on him, um, is just kind of like, I don't know. It's just interesting. There doesn't appear to be a ton of, like, he loves his mother, but there doesn't appear to be a ton of love lost for his father, and yet he's always mimicking his father. He's always trying to be like his father in many ways. There's the moment where he sits down next to him at the church organ. um I don't know. I think it's interesting, these two aspects of faith, these two different styles of parenting, these two completely different people, and their influence on Jack and the way that he is, kind of becoming as he's trying to
Coming of
deal with
age.
life, um, deal with life and grief and everything that's kind of swirling around him, in the world.
Yeah. Um, I think it's partly a coming of age film, broadly speaking. It is Jack coming to terms with that people don't live forever, and the fact that his brother, who died,
Yeah,
kind of causes him.
bad things happen to good people. He's coming to
Why
terms
does?
with that.
Yeah, that is a staple in the coming of age genre, to be honest. And he's basically growing up with some bad kids who throw rocks at windows, and for some reason he decides to break into a woman's house and steal a dress and float down the river. For some reason, I still don't know what that was about, but he decided to do it anyway. Good on him. Um, I think again, I think broadly speaking, it's supposed to be just mankind's tendencies to do random acts of cruelty, random acts of just meanness, just for the hell of it, or it could just be them grappling with the fact that nothing means anything, or nothing means nothing. Just the world is so meaningless.
I think his specific experiences, we're supposed to get the sense that he's grappling um with again the
Morality.
existence of good and bad, with good and evil, with his mother who is so faithful and his father who also is faithful in a different way, um, going to church all the time. He's grappling with the existence of good and evil, with also believing in a benevolent God, who's all powerful. Why does he
Mhm,
let these things happen to good people? And is it even worth it to be completely good in that
mhm,
case? If we have a supposed benevolent God who lets bad things happen to good people.
mhm,
Um, and so, there's like almost there's like a push pull almost,
mhm,
a push away from the father because of the things that the father does.
mhm.
I think he almost views him as evil or bad sometimes, but then there's
Pip
also kind of an order that he respects,
mhm,
kind of a being in his father that he respects. uh I don't know.
yeah.
I,
I
f- I
think
feel
it
like
could
I feel like you could just sorry. Last thing,
yeah,
I feel
yeah,
like you could just kind of start talking about anything in this movie. I feel like this is kind of, you need more of an essay than kind of this kind of loose podcast we do, because you could start talking about anything in this movie, and then it's all so
jet
interconnected, the different
yeah.
ideas, that you can just jump between anything. So sorry if so far it seems like we're jumping all over the place. It's a lot.
This movie literally has no well, it has a beginning and end, but it's kind of recursive, so
Hmm.
I don't know what to tell you guys. But I think there's an aspect of it that is also Freudian, with Jack siding with his mother. And then when he screams, "She loves me," and starts siding with his mom a lot more. There's a little bit of. I know Freud has been disproven, but hey, that's kind of worth mentioning, possibly, maybe. When a child sides the mother and goes against the father, I don't want to say it's an Oedipus complex because that is leading way too much into that, but yeah, there's a little bit of that there. I also think that one of this film's strengths is the fact that it's almost shot from like cosmic omniscience. Like basically, you don't get too attached to the characters. You kind of are looking from the outside in. There's no, I don't want to say there's no depth to the characters, but and you do get some of their inner thoughts. It's almost like set dressing. It's cosmic detachment is probably what I'm trying to get more at.
Hmm.
Um, you're kind of you're like a fly on the wall, in a
Yeah.
very very abstract way,
Yeah.
and I think that's what makes the film very unique. It's like you're kind of viewing it from the viewpoint of God, who's just watching over, and you care for these characters. You've seen them. You've seen it Jack from being birthed to growing up, and him struggling with growing up, and it is almost like God watching down and just telling him, "Hey, buddy, I'm here." In a way, it's very hard to explain. The more I'm
Yeah.
saying it, but I know what I'm talking about.
And I think also, I, I'm thinking about something completely different. I think also kind of going back to the interconnectedness of everything. Um, I think there's that time when the father goes on a business trip, and the mother is left alone with the kids for a while. I don't know exactly how long that sequence is supposed to be in real life, but obviously it's some kind of montage. Um, you kind of have the mother as this almost embodiment of divinity or divine
She
grace.
floats in one scene.
Yeah. Um, and then you have, I feel like there's a lot of moments of Malick trying to point to divinity in nature as well,
Hmm.
especially in the intro sequence. Or not the intro sequence, but the first like long shots of the universe sequence.
Yeah.
Um, and but then there's also this moment in that montage when she's home alone where um the I believe it's Jack. He's chasing her around with a snake or a lizard of some kind.
A frog,
Um,
I think. Right.
I think it was a lizard. Whatever. It's a reptile, amphibian, something from outside that's not really
Something green.
dangerous. Yeah. And obviously he's chasing her around and she's playing into it, but there's never a moment like you would kind of expect with the father. She never really gets mad. I think is interesting. She's always like, it's like it's good fun. Like she's being chased around. She obviously doesn't like it, but she's laughing and smiling from what I remember.
It's playful. Yeah.
Right, it's playful. Uh I don't know. I don't even really know what I'm trying to say about it. It's just
Yeah.
it's very interesting to see kind of the interplay and I'm sure plenty of essays have been written about basically every scene we're going to talk about,
Yeah.
or at least
Uh,
some number of essays have probably been written about this movie, I would imagine.
yeah. I feel like that scene definitely means something in a very symbolic sense, but I don't know what. Is it God running away from its creation? I don't know. Like Spy
No,
Kids 2 style.
I think it's here's my interpretation. I think perhaps, right, because Jack is a surrogate for us. Um the father and the mother are kind of almost surrogates for divinity or kind of nature in divinity or something. Um and Jack picks up the snake and he chases his mom around with it, this person of grace. And she's playful. She understands she's not in any danger. If I had to analyze it, if I had to give it if I had to hazard a guess, basically, I would say probably what Malik's trying to get across is that nature is our best connection to that divinity. That Jack picks up uh, the lizard or whatever it is, and in that moment, in that activity, he is very connected
Mm-hmm.
with this playtime with
Hmm.
divine grace, right, or grace, or however you want to put that. Um, Again, if I had to guess.
Yeah. I think it's also worth noting that Jack's mom, she's also seen very barefoot whenever she's in nature. Not within the house, but like when she's in nature. So, all you foot
Outside.
guys, this is some good stuff
Oh
for you.
my god. Yeah, Jessica Chastain's feet on film. Oh boy. That's why our friend likes this movie so much. um okay. I think also we talked a little bit about influences, specifically the book of Job, right? I feel like that's
Mhm.
probably the most applicable thing from
Yeah.
the actual Bible text of the Bible itself. But um I looked this up earlier. Terrance Malick majored in philosophy. So obviously he's got some philosophers probably that influenced him. Um, I would say one that I could point to. I haven't read this philosopher as much as I would like to. Kierkegaard, um, kind of the idea of the leap of faith, kind of embracing belief and faith in the face of absurdity or evil or um, the absurd, maybe. And you can kind of see it in the model of the mother in this her faith basically is unwavering through the entire film. Her son dies and she cries about that. She's very sad. But she always kind of retains this divine figure, I think, through the movie. This faith that she has through the whole time, the whole runtime of the film. Um,
Mm.
and we also kind of see a journey for the father, Brad Pitt's character, to sort of be redeemed in the eyes of his son over time. Um, as his son kind of takes on more of his teachings, even the teachings that he doesn't want his son to necessarily take on.
Yeah.
And that, from my understanding of it, again, I haven't read Kierkegaard as deeply or as much as I'd like to. I will eventually. My understanding of it is that the leap of faith is a very personal event. It's a thing that you really have to push yourself to do. Um, and I feel like you can really, throughout the whole film, you get a sense that Brad Pitt's character is really trying to be better. Um, and he doesn't always succeed, and sometimes he fails quite spectacularly. But you can see it a lot in the little moments that he has with his son. I think that he's really trying to be this, almost like um, this loving, compassionate figure to go alongside all of the other things that he brings to the table
Hmm.
as the father.
As a father should probably try to be.
Loving and compassionate. I agree.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder why. Yeah.
um, but yeah, I'm sure there's lots of other philosophical influences that you could pick up on. I have not quite gotten to a lot of the Christian philosophers. I'm sure that's where he pulled a lot of his
Mhm.
philosophical influence from. Kierkegaard's the main one that I know a little bit about. But I'm sure if you read more medieval philosophy, you'd probably find some ideas that overlap. I just don't know them personally. I haven't
Mm.
read as much philosophy in general as I want to, let alone that specific type.
You've definitely read more than me, so that's for sure. Yeah. Um, Trying to run through other scenes. What was that BB gun scene about? Do you know?
Which one?
Where he puts his finger over the gun and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna shoot it," and I was like, "Don't do that," but he does it anyways. I don't know what. I was like,
Either
I
either you watched the extended version and I didn't, or I'm just completely like blanking on this scene. I'm blanking.
um. Well,
Let me see if I can.
it was
Yeah,
like
go
Jack.
ahead.
Yeah, it was Jack's brother, and he just said, "It's like, hey, I got this BB gun. You should put your finger on top of it." And then he's like, "No, I don't want to do that," but he does it anyways. And then he's like, "Oh, I'm
Oh,
gonna apologize."
yeah.
I liked,
It like cuts to later. They're in like their bedroom or something, and
and
he's
he
like, "I'm
apologized.
sorry. We're brothers. We're
We're
brothers.
bros.
I'm not supposed to do anything like that. We're brothers."
Yeah. The more that I talk about it, see, all these thoughts just come to me. As we're talking about them now, I like to think that's like temptation and getting punished for it. Maybe, I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's also a sign that these kids aren't perfectly good. Also, Um,
They're stupid sometimes.
Job, right? If we're comparing it back to that, um, Job, I believe, is made, from what I remember, is made out to be kind of perfect in his faith. And it's kind of a test of Job. There's this God and the devil kind of make a bet about Job's faith. And
I
it's
got
kind
this
of
completely
this.
wrong. Yeah.
It's a test of Job that God strips away everything that Job has, um, been given over the course of his life. Um, and then Job still refuses to
Denounce
blame
God.
God, denounce God. Um, and I guess because this is really early in the story, not super early in the movie because we have 30 minutes of of the universe before that, but it's pretty early in this actual story about the family from what I remember, if I'm remembering the scene correctly now. And so I guess it's kind of just a sign that these people are not perfect. If Job can't expect, a perfect life from his uh, extremely, if not perfect, near perfect faith, then what can the rest of us sinners expect, even if we ask for forgiveness? I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm stretching there, but I have
Yeah.
no idea.
This podcast features people with ADHD talking this out.
That's true.
I, I will say though, I was very transfixed during this movie. I was like, even though I was absorbed by the slow pace and the audacity to go this slow and just have this much, just like it just feel like an artist's true vision somehow being fully realized. Just like everything was on point, the music, the cinematography, and just reading behind the scenes of some of the stuff, like the butterfly being real and how they chased down that butterfly just to land on Chastain's finger. They chased it down 2 blocks, blew my mind. Um, and the fact that like all that, it's just it's very very daunting to even talk about this film, and I think we're a little bit in over our heads right now. One other thing I like to mention, the dinosaurs. Is it a microcosm of the film's meaning? Because the there's a dinosaur that appears, and he chooses not to kill the dinosaur that is injured, that is fallen on the ground, could have stomped on him or something, but it just walks away. And then soon enough, an asteroid hits the Earth. Is it Does it mean anything? Is it just showing
Yeah,
the
yeah,
beginning?
yeah. I think. Well, first of all, it's theologically murky waters. I
Oh,
believe
oh yeah.
because some theologies don't believe that. Um,
Dinosaurs existed.
no, not. I again, I have not read as much medieval and theological philosophy as I will in the future.
Mhm.
But I believe some faiths think that animals aren't they're not quite subject to good and evil
Human.
as humans
Uh-huh.
are. We have like more access to it.
Mhm.
But I would say then we have to assume in this movie these dinosaurs, whatever you would,
Mhm.
animals, are able to do good and evil. And I think this is a moment where that dinosaur is choosing to do good. He doesn't need to eat the other dinosaur, so he just leaves the dinosaur injured. He doesn't kill him. And so I think what you have is you have a dinosaur that does good, and then you have a moment where something awful, something awful and evil happens to a dinosaur that's done good, which is just a microcosm of what's going to happen to this family, comparing the death of the son slash brother to the asteroid hitting the Earth, making the dinosaurs extinct. Same thing.
Okay.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Uh,
Same thing, but different.
yeah. So totally awful things happening to beings who are capable of real good. Um, and why does that happen? I think.
Mhm.
I think there's also something to be said about kind of interconnectedness. Um, he's I don't know. To me, Malik, he's trying to connect the cosmos to God, and then also to nature in the form of his like tree of life. Um, and the tree, all things are connected through it, right?
Yeah.
Um, what is there to say about it? I'm honestly not sure, but
Yeah.
but
Okay.
I think that's clearly what he's attempting to do. That everything is connected. I guess kind of we would fall back to maybe the Christian religious answer of everything happens for a reason.
Mhm.
How do we deal with that reality, assuming that's true? Um, if everything is connected, then everything must happen for a reason, right?
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I don't know. It's it's definitely something to chew on and think over. And I don't have a particular interest in rewatching this movie a bunch of times, but I think it's definitely deep enough that you could rewatch it a bunch of times and really dig into it.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add to that, but I think we should also talk about the ending where it gets really trippy, where Sean Penn is now here, and as he leaves work, he goes in the elevator and then he exits, I think, and then it's like a rocky terrain. He sees a young woman and then a door, and then he enters through it. And then a bunch
Oh
of
yeah, I
stuff happens,
remember
but
I
then
was really confused. I was like
okay.
I was trying to remember exactly what happened, and then yeah, I was really confused in the moment.
Yeah, and then he meets up with his family again in their purest form as we saw them, I think, right? And they're on the beach, and I think this has to be heaven. There's no other way that this is not heaven.
Yeah, no,
Um,
he dies and he rejoins his family for sure.
yeah. Um, he see everybody that he's ever met is there. Um,
Or maybe he doesn't die. I don't know. Because doesn't he go back right after?
yeah, no, yeah. They
Okay, so he
at the
doesn't
end,
die. He doesn't die. He doesn't die, probably.
it
Sorry,
was
what
a
were we going to
vision.
say? I just,
He died and came back to life,
yeah.
essentially. That's it.
Yeah, sorry. I realized that I said something wrong because he probably didn't die. So
Okay.
I was like, let me fix that. Try to.
But I think he sees a young girl. I don't know if that young girl was earlier in the film. Because I think Jack walked with you. It was not.
Well,
Maybe.
I don't recognize. I
Okay.
didn't recognize her. Is all I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Potentially. Possibly. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe his wife. Possibly. Potentially. And I think him walking through the door is like accepting faith, as if I guess he was rejecting God at the beginning of the movie. I don't remember what he was narrating at the beginning. But he accepts faith, and then he's welcome. He forgives his father because they embrace. He forgives his entire family, and he learns that the meaning of life is to love. And I think he sees the world expand to a red giant, and then engulfs the earth, and the earth dies. And I think
Yeah.
that's just him accepting that one day Jesus Christ will come down and absolve us of all our sins once again. Maybe.
I don't think it's even as much as the movie plays around with faith. I don't think that I you necessarily even need a religious interpretation of the
Hmm.
finale outside of the fact that he's clearly seeing a vision of some kind of afterlife. And his mother says something seemingly
I
religious.
I give him
But
to
I
you. I give you my son.
yeah, but I think you could also interpret it as um the he's kind of accepting life for what it is. He's accepting that there's an end for all of it, whether it's early for his brother or late for the star death of the solar system. Um, whatever ending there is, you can kind of accept all of it, and he kind of forgives himself and his father in that moment as he's kind of accepted things for what they are. Um, and then obviously you can get into kind of the religious interpretation past that point, but I don't think you even need that much of it to talk about this
Mm.
ending and kind of what it means as far as like your personal life and how you've lived with
Mm.
it and dealing with suffering. I think there's a non-religious message in there as well.
Okay, I thought you were about to say that there was a literal surface level meaning to this film, and I
No,
would really love
no,
to
no,
hear
no,
that.
no.
No, no.
No, I don't think anything really about this movie is surface level. It's like 99% under the surface.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate what this film is trying to do because it is just like it instead of going for the literal meaning, it goes for just a very abstract meaning, which is cool. Um, and at the end of this, after his mom goes, "I give him to you. I give you my son." I think that's probably saying that his mom is very happy that he's back in the faith or something, possibly, maybe, potentially, who knows. He leaves. Jack leaves the building, and he smiles, which I think is just saying that he really accepts his faith. And the film ends with a light, and then the credits roll. It's just God going, "Thank you, man. Thank you for accepting me."
Thank you for coming back to me, Jack, oh boy.
Yeah. And that is our analysis of the movie.
Yeah, I think if you haven't seen it and any of that sounded interesting to you, definitely check
We
it
didn't,
out.
yeah, we didn't
It's a
spoil anything.
wild experience. Yeah, we talked about the ending, but really it's all kind of what you make of it, man. Um, so I mean, if any of it sounded interesting to you, check it out. I think I mean, I gave it a rating on Letterboxd, but I feel like this kind of movie kind of
Or goes that?
it's not
Yeah,
really as rateable as maybe some other movies are. I
nostalgia.
kind of rated it more on how much I personally enjoyed it than, you know, because obviously it's very deep,
Yeah,
and there's tons to talk about. So I was just like, okay, yeah, it's really good technically. I'll just rate it based on how much I vibed with it, basically. But
yeah. I
yeah,
really enjoyed the film too. I found this very profound and meaningful, and I do think it's probably one of my favorite films of all time. But even though my tone of voice does not sound like that at all, I do. I think this is actually probably one of the best films ever made, and probably a personal favorite. It's just not a film that I'm gonna go out of my way to recommend to people, unless you're a
yeah.
cool friend that's like, yo, I want to watch this movie and feel very trippy, maybe, potentially.
If you love film, I think you have to check it out. It's kind of like it's weird because it came out in like the 2010s or whatever, technically 2011.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know. It's like one of those movies that it might, when it's all said and done, it might be up there with like the Kubrick's and the 2001, the probably its main influence. It might be up there, which might
Hmm.
be sacrilegious to say, but get it? Sacrilegious?
Oh, that was
Yeah.
good. It took me a while. Unless you pointed it out. Okay.
But yeah, definitely. It's a hard recommend, but if you love movies, it's a much easier recommend, I think.
Yeah, if you want to watch the most artsy movie ever made, this is probably it's up there.
It's up there. It's up there. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
there are movies with less plot than this, if we're being honest. But yeah, it's definitely up there for sure.
Yeah. Experimental.
Yeah.
Um. All right. Let's wrap things up.
All right.
If
Go ahead.
ooh, okay, I'm gonna take over this time.
Oh, but
If
okay.
All right. If you want to watch us discuss a book that is very thematically similar to this, Thank you to the fan that recommended this, by the way. You rock. We would not have watched this movie without you, or not have made the connections, but that's cool. We're gonna be
Yeah, because
discussing.
neither of us really knew much about this movie, so I don't think we would have connected it in our heads unless some you recommended it.
Yeah, anyone who's watching this recommend us anything. We will probably watch it
We'll
without even
consider
vetting
it.
it.
We'll consider it. Well, okay, maybe we will vet it, but we'll consider it for sure.
We trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll be talking about the book, the novel, the magnum opus of John Steinbeck, East of Eden, which spectacular book, great, amazing, lives up to the hype, and you'll see our great analysis about it whenever we upload it.
Yeah, it should be
Uh,
coming soon. We're a little bit
coming soon.
behind, a little bit
Yeah,
backed up.
yeah. And if you like this video, be sure to give us a like, or if you like this podcast, you give us 5 stars or rate it up, make us happy. Leave a comment. We love interaction. You can follow us on TikTok if it doesn't get banned at Not Just Any Pod, on X or Twitter at Not Just Any Pod, and you could also go to our Spotify or podcast if you want to look at some exclusive content, which are the episodes we did not deem worthy. But if you want to look at that, you feel free to look at Not Just Any Pod. And did I miss anything, Piers?
I do not think so, except for your famous outro.
My famous outro. Goodbye.